Joining me now is Congressman Gerald Nadler, Democrat from New York. Last year, Congressman Nadler offered a proposal to have the government publicly outline their surveillance programs. That proposal was defeated by the Judiciary Committee. And Congressman Nadler, you were quite pointed in your critique of FBI Director Mueller today. And I want to read you something that your colleague, James Clyburn, told BuzzFeed this week about the leaks. He said, there is an attempt by several people to do political harm to this president. I just think this is part of that. I've gotten to where I am in politics. I haven't gotten to where I am in politics without relying on my gut. My gut tells me there's an effort to embarrass the president. What do you make of Congressman Clyburn's interpretation of this?
Well, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. There's certainly been any number of attempts to embarrass the president and any number of things by people who weren't too sincere. And there may be some people criticizing this who aren't totally sincere, who are motivated by politics. But there is a lot to criticize here. And I'd rather talk about the substance than people's motives. And if people, for political reasons, want to do the right thing, that's better.
So that I think to me is the big question. If you have real substantive concerns with some of the things that have been revealed, with some of the secrecy around it, and now the next plot point in this story to me is there going to be an actual coalition formed on Capitol Hill to have some congressional action? And that does depend on good faith, right? Because it depends on whether you can actually form coalitions with Republicans who really do care about this and aren't just grandstanding.
Well, that remains to be seen. And there is a wing of the Republican Party, which has been a fairly small wing, the so-called libertarians, although I think there's somewhat more in the current Congress than in the last few Congresses, who do care about these issues. They've been less than consistent. They've cared less when George Bush was in office than they do now. But I'm glad to have their help and their agreement. I mean, the fact is, we opposed Section 215 of the PATRIOT Act, which gives the authority for this dragnet a grabbing of all so-called metadata about all electronic communications. We opposed it in 2002. We opposed it when it was renewed, and we opposed it again last year when it was renewed a second time. And we were right to oppose it. And if we're going to be joined by more people now, that's good for the country. What
will it take for there to be a real breakthrough on Capitol Hill? Because right now it seems to me the insider-outsider paradigm is pretty decent. Those members of Congress closest to intelligence oversight, both the House Intelligence Committee and the Senate Intelligence Committee, seem to be the ones who have been defending most strenuously these programs. And so my question is, what has to happen for things to actually change and move forward to actually rein in some stuff statutorily?
Well, I think people have to begin to understand just how intrusive this has gotten. I mean, when Jim Sensenbrenner, who is the chief author of much of the PATRIOT Act, including Section 215, now says that they have misused and they've gone beyond what he anticipated, albeit we warned that would happen 10 years ago. Fine. He says we have to rein it in now. That's progress.
But that's a perfect example. Here's what Sensenbrenner said. He says, as the author of the Patriot Act, I am extremely disturbed by what appears to be an overbroad interpretation of the act. Those are his words from a letter last week to Attorney General Eric Holder. In 2006, he said, 0. That's the number of substantiated USA Patriot Act civil liberties violations. Extensive congressional oversight found no violations. Despite many challenges, no federal court has declared unconstitutional any of the Patriot Act provisions Congress is renewing. It deserves to be renewed. And I understand you not wanting to speculate on the motives of your colleagues, but my question is can you work with James Sensenbrenner? Or
yes, we can certainly work with him as long as we can certainly work with him. How far we can remains to be seen, but you have to assume at this point good faith. I hope that it'll be shown. And the fact is that, when he said, what was it, 7 years ago, that no courts had declared anything unconstitutional because of something else, namely the state secrets doctrine, you couldn't get into court.
Right.
You couldn't get these challenged in court, and because you lacked standing because you couldn't show you were being surveilled. With the revelation that we have now, the ACLU, which filed the lawsuit and was found to have no standing to bring the suit years ago because they couldn't prove that they had been victims, now we know that they, like everybody else, has been a victim. All of their metadata about all their phone calls and everything has been seized. They have standing. They can go and sue, and they did too. And they did file the lawsuit today.
Congressman Gerald Nadler, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
It's a pleasure.